I'm going to read from the beginning of a story called We Were Here, which ran in ZYZZYVA in the fall. Ava Gardner was going to die. She used one of the Encyclopedia Britannica, from Shuvalov Peter Andreevich to Subliminal Self, to press her front door in place against the peeling wall. She wouldn't let any of us close it, and she fastened all the windows in her little apartment so that the wind wouldn't pull it shut either. It was because she was waiting for her husband, she told us. She sat slumped in her armchair, facing the door, her blanket pulled to her chin. Every evening when I knocked on the door frame to give her dinner, her eyes would flicker open, and she would shout at me to set the plate on the coffee table, pour her a glass of water, and then get out of there. Get out, get out. It had to do with the husband. He won't want to visit when he gets home, that's for sure. Or, he'll be here soon, so I've got a lot of cleaning to do, don't I? We didn't know which of her husbands she meant. There'd been 3, a baker, a typewriter repairman, and a nurse, but they had all died. I was 13 years old and had never known a dying person, but I felt they were supposed to act in certain ways, and it bothered me that Ava didn't fulfill those expectations. When she talked about her husband, she wasn't sentimental. She sounded irritated instead, as if his impending return bugged her. And she never thanked me when I brought her dinner and put a straw in a cup of water. Go, go, go. He's going to be here any minute. I looked up Peter Andreevich Shuvalov on the internet, but nothing came up, except an online version of that same Encyclopedia Britannica. Not a word beyond that. If it weren't for that encyclopedia, it would have been like he hadn't existed at all. She might have assumed I was getting paid. Her daughter lived in Minnesota and paid our neighbors, Bonita and Mariam, to watch after Ava. It was cheaper for the daughter than putting Ava in a nursing home, my mom explained, and Bonita and Mariam could use the extra cash. Bonita, who lived next door to Ava, worked as a dancer at night, so she took the day shift. Mariam, who lived next to us, a floor down from Ava and Bonita, worked as a security guard during the day, so she took the night shift. For the 2 hours in between, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, Ava was alone. I brought her dinner up, and if she needed anything else, she rang a bell her daughter had given her. It was easy to hear because her door was open, and ours often was too, and in any case, if we didn't hear at first, she rang that bell till we did. Ava used to be sour to other people, but never to us. I mean, never to me, my mom, Mariam, and Bonita. But a couple months earlier, her knees had buckled as she stood in front of the building, fumbling to get her key into the heavy industrial door. Well, she had dropped onto the cement and broken her hips. She sat there on the ground for 30 minutes, clenching her teeth, not even calling for help because she was prideful, my mom said. Finally, Monsieur Piotrowski, who lived on the first floor, found her and drove her to the emergency room. The hospital put her in a rehab center through the fall, and when she came back, she had changed. She had turned against us, too. She had lost her hair. Now her marbled forehead sloped all the way to the top of her head. All day she sat huddled in her armchair, waiting for her husband and shouting at us. Mariam and my mom had lived next door to each other for decades, since before my mom had me and Mariam had Leo. They had been newlyweds together. Mariam, my mom, and their husbands, my father and Leo's father, all played cards together in our apartment. Good times, my mom said. Those were good times. Now Mariam came over alone because my mom didn't get along with Mariam's second husband. Mariam was big-breasted and fat-limbed, and she would sit at the kitchen table and lean back in her chair like a man. Her voice, too, was loud and strong like a man's. She didn't look like someone you would mess with, but her husband beat her. That was one of the great mysteries of my childhood. One evening that fall, Mariam and I sat at the table as my mom made dinner. Mariam took out a handkerchief and wiped her forehead and peered at the oily yellow stain. She told us about how it had started to smell like a sewer in Ava's apartment. When Mariam had opened a window to air it out, Ava hobbled to the window and looked down at Bonita, who was sunbathing in the courtyard, and shouted, "Tramp!" Before Mariam could do anything, Ava had cleared her throat and hawked a glob of phlegm down at poor Bonita. "Did it hit her?" I said. "Nah, she's fine," Mariam said. Man, Ava got so mean. People say she should have been using her key card like everyone else, then she'd be fine. "Remember that we'll all get old too," Mariam said. She wore a big black sweatshirt with the image of a unicorn head made out in silver sequins. Some of the sequins had fallen off, and it gave the unicorn a sad, beat-up sort of look. Those people who said that to you, those people are going to get old too, and they'll fall too, and their neighbors will tell each other, "Oh, they should have used their key card." But it's true. She should have, my mom said.